The argument being that aid isn't helping us, we need trade. That seems to be, from the minds of Pakistanis, a very important thing that will help bridge this trust deficit, at least. That will help us realize that this relationship is not simply transactional. Why can't we see progress on that, especially since it's a very, it's a topic of very hot debate in Pakistan?
As well it should be. I frankly, having been trained as an economist, am very sympathetic to the argument that it should be trade rather than aid wherever it can be. But here we get back to politics. This is a matter of timing. It's not a great idea before an election and with 9.5% unemployment or whatever it is in the United States to start talking about giving trade concessions, which are probably going to cost us some jobs. And I think the administration is fairly strapped on that. We should have done it years ago, probably. We didn't. And I know it's symbolically important, although I'm not quite sure how directly economic important it is in the short term. It's a long-term kind of thing. Trade will improve your competitiveness, you will deepen your industry and so forth, and it will, over the long run, increase the ability of the industry to compete and, in fact, bring Pakistan much more benefit. But it's a very difficult subject for us right now. I haven't been present in discussions about it, but I've been present in discussions on other countries and when I was ambassador in Pakistan, on Pakistan, about removing some of the trade barriers, and it's a political hot potato.
Right. Another issue that is, again, like you said, symbolically important is the civilian nuclear deal. Pakistan has been pushing for this, and I know it came up during the talks. What sort of, in this last round of talks, what sort of assurances could the U.S. give Pakistan, if anything?
Probably. I don't know the answer to that, really, but I think very few, because my understanding is that I know that we've done such a deal, or a deal with India, and I know this is a neuralgic point with Pakistanis, and I can understand why it is, but I think that it's kind of like some of the other things that previous administrations have thought about and even put up to the Congress and got swatted back like a tennis ball.
Right.
I think right now the idea of putting such a proposal into the Congress is probably just a non-starter.
It's difficult to do.
Yeah.
Let's go over to Islamabad, and I want to ask Mr. Mushahid Hussain. I mean, these are some big symbolic gestures that the U.S. Could make to allay some of the trust deficit that exists between Pakistan and the U.S., and it's being seen as one of some of the big issues. But on this flip side, we have seen other projects. We've seen Hillary Clinton mention 2 hydroelectric dams that we want to build, that the U.S. wants to help build, help in the infrastructure, the water infrastructure, hospitals in Karachi and Lahore. These things don't get as much press as the big ticket items such as civilian nuclear deals and trade versus aid. Why is that? Why can't those things be seen as being symbolically significant as well?
So I'd like to add to Raza's question a little bit, talking about these broad areas, these 13 areas that he's referring to, the hospitals and the women development and everything. Do you think we're perhaps putting too much on the table and we cannot focus on some very important issues at hand? And secondly, do you think we're expecting too much out of the United States? We expect the United States to do everything for us. We're not willing to take responsibility on our own.
Precisely. I would agree with that. This has been my criticism of the content of this dialogue. The strategic dialogue means we should focus on strategic issues. 1, 2, 3, 4. I would have said, okay, debt relief is one of them, counter-terrorism strategy is another one, flood relief rehabilitation is another one, peace in Afghanistan, so forth, or Kashmir. But you know what we have done, and here I don't blame the US, I blame our own government. It's become too open-ended, too broad, too dispersed. 13 items on the agenda, starting from hospitals in Karachi to energy, electricity, education, media, you name it, everything is on the table. The problem is we created this mess in Pakistan ourselves, not the US. Let's be very fair. And we should clean it up ourselves. The US is not in a position to fix each and every one of our problems. If we haven't built dams, It's not the US responsibility. It's our failure.
Absolutely.
If we haven't provided good hospitals or education, it's our failure, not the US failure. So why the hell should we go running to the US all the time and saying, please do this, please do that? They can't do it.
We need to take some
responsibility. And they don't have the
responsibility.
capacity. We are putting too much on the American plate. They can't handle it. That's why it really becomes a dialogue of the deaf on substantive issues, and otherwise they continue, let's agree to keep on talking, you know. It's talk about talks. And in concrete terms, nothing comes out.
Right, let's go back to Washington. Raza, you heard Mr. Mushahid Hussain say it's all talks about talks, and he said, you know, even though that these ideas, these 13 points are commendable, but there's too much on the table. I'd like to put the same question to Ambassador Milam. Do you think we're overstretching and we're not focusing on the immediate things at hand?
Ambassador.
Well, the answer is no, I don't. And I think I just said a few minutes ago, I thought the broadening of the talks into issues like water and like energy are very valuable and very useful. We don't pretend that we can fix every problem in Pakistan that maybe Pakistanis created for themselves. Maybe they had some help. But in any case, we think we can provide some input into some of the problems. Water, for example, energy, for example, we can do. And I suspect that for the United States, it's a welcome idea to expand into areas where we can be of help, and we want to be of help. Whereas energy, civilian nuclear agreements, I think, are just off the table from our point of view right now.
So you're saying
trade, concessions, I don't know, I don't think they're on the table. I could be wrong about that. I'd like to be wrong. But I think expanding it into areas where we can be of legitimate and tangible help is a positive thing.
Right, so you're saying that these are things that we can move forward on as opposed to these other big symbolic gestures.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Islamabad, and again, I want to raise this point, and this is something that's talked about in you know, the DC think tank world and the policy world, that a lot of this aid that's going into Pakistan, the objective very tangibly is to improve the U.S. image in Pakistan, is to help with actual visual things, a hospital or a dam, that people of Pakistan can point to and say that is something that America has constructed for us. Is that something that can work? Is that something the U.S. Can make it work and make it so that they can move forward with their image problem in Pakistan?
Mr. Mushahid Hussain.
Yes, sir. Before answering the question, I'd just like to mention about this civil nuclear deal. I think I would agree with the Mr. Milam. That is not doable under the circumstances. The US has difficulty in trying to stomach our so-called Islamic bomb, and they have suspicions about Pakistan because we are a Muslim country and so forth. So I think we should not even go on that track. Our best bet should be that, look here, we've got this this Pakistan-China civil nuclear deal, and similar to what they had with the Indians. So it should be not opposed, and that's what we should focus on, rather than focusing on a non-starter like a US-Pakistan nuclear deal, which will never pass Congress under the circumstances. Secondly, about this whole scenario, I would agree. There are living symbols of Pakistan-China cooperation.
Right.
You have Gwadar, you have the defense industry, you have the Karakoram highway. There are living symbols of Pakistan-Soviet cooperation in the past Cold War, the Karachi steel mills, or you have other symbols of cooperation with other countries. So we don't have any visible symbol of Pakistan-American cooperation. I would agree with that. Maybe a University of Science and Technology, maybe something established in the FATA region, maybe some reservoir or other project. That would have been there. But and also I've been recommending for FATA, for example, and I made this recommendation to visiting Americans as well, Senator Kerry, for example, that, for example, the reconstruction opportunity zones would have been one symbol of that. Okay, if it's not doable for some reason, because we don't hear about that anymore, I said work on giving 30,000 work visas for women and men who are educated from FATA to work in the Gulf countries, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and so forth, And those are countries which are friendly towards Pakistan. Those are countries where the US has a lot of clout and influence. And it won't cost the US any dime or cent at all.